mystery and horror, the air itself is filled with monsters.
Children of the night, what music they make. He's alive! He's alive!
Well, hello, all you monster fiends, and thank you for joining us for another deep dive, factoid-filled episode exploring Hollywood's most famous monsters. I am your mistress of ceremonies, Sam, and I am joined, as always, by Dan from Bleeding Marvelous. Say hello, Dan.
One of us, one of us, one of us. Hiya!
Oh, I was getting into that. Hi. We accept her, one of us. Hey, welcome to a new episode of the Monster Up North podcast. It's been a minute. And today we're going back in time. We're going way back in time. We're going
Easy, Huey Lewis.
Is this
back in time?
Is this the latest movie we've done?
No,
Earliest.
Dracula, and we've done Frankenstein. So Frankenstein was 33, Dracula was 31. So I think by default, same director as Dracula.
But this is 32.
Yeah, so it's our second oldest one.
Well, if you haven't already noticed from the display, the posters, the promotion, we are doing Tod Browning's Freaks. And I have to say Tod Browning's Freaks when I say the title, because I don't really like the word freaks. It's been used as quite a derogatory one in my time, so I don't particularly like it, but I will bear that cross in this episode. So I'll get the disclaimer out the way with, and we'll get into what has been deemed as a masterpiece of not just horror, but movie history itself. So, everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us on our Facebook pages, the Nerdy Up North Discord, or the comment section, where we can have an open discussion. But what we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong, because we can all agree to disagree in horror. So let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behavior out of nerdism.
Don't be a dick.
Just don't do it.
Just don't.
Just don't do it. It's as simple as that.
No.
You heard what Dan said. So, Freaks is a 1932 pre-code drama horror film, questionable, produced and directed by Tod Browning, starring Wallace Ford, Lila Hames, Olga Balkanova, Roscoe Yates, and Harry Earls. The film is based on the elements from the short story Spurs by Todd Robbins. You'll be amazed, fascinated beyond belief, with this eerie story unfolds before your eyes as Monsters Up North brings you Tod Browning's Freaks.
And this is where I get on my trike and start riding around. 50 of me pop out of a mini. Yeah,
I just imagine you with like a little hat on and just like juggling on a tricycle.
I did study circus skills at college.
Of course you did.
Yeah, I could spin a plate, and I could gymnastics and all sorts. But needless to say, I was thinking about this the other day. If I lived in another time, like back in these days, I probably would have run off and joined the circus.
Yeah?
I feel like that would have been my calling, to be a carny of some kind. Because I wouldn't have fit in. I just know I would never have fit in how the women were proper and how the women were put together, and there'd always be me going, ugh. So I'd just have to join a freak show, or I'll become the tattooed lady, or the I think or I'd just help somebody do something. For me, that would be probably where I'd end up in a traveling show.
I always do that when me and my best friend go off to places, and that, like, for example, we love to go to Beamish, which is an open air museum where I live. And when we're walking around, I'm like, if we, in our class as we are now, were back in them times, where would we fall in the hierarchy? And then I'll use Downton Abbey as an example. Are we upstairs or are we downstairs? Or are we in the middle? And she'll always go, well, my dad was in the army, in the navy, so I would be kind of middle. You, on the other hand, come from a mining village, pit family, you'd be on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, okay, I can accept that. That's fine. That's okay.
No, I definitely choose the Carney lifestyle. They look to be just such happier. Like, I know this glamorized it in one way, this film, but they were earning so much money. Like, a lot of these people that were touted as exhibitions, shall we say, in freak shows or sideshows. These guys were on mega money. Some of them, they commanded, those of them that could speak up for themselves and weren't trapped in any of the nefarious type of sideshows that did exist at the time.
Yeah, Greatest Showman. Who said that?
P.T. Barnum is a fake. So I need people to know this, because people watch you bloody Jackman and they're like, oh, P.T. Barnum, wasn't he lovely? Didn't he have a nice voice? It's like, hang on a minute. His fat man wasn't fat. His tall man wasn't tall. He's like, P.T. Barnum is renowned in the sideshow community for being one of the biggest frauds ever. You know, the guy bought a dancing bear and became enamored with that. He was one of these freak. He was what I would call an honest to God freak. He was the one who orchestrated this cabinet of fakery, which then put everybody in bad stead, because P.T. Barnum then teamed up, or had been teaming up, with the Ringling Brothers to do a lot of the circus acts and stuff like that. And they're still going. Well, I say they're still going. I think the Ringling may have just not long stopped, but I know they were going up until recently. And they've been going for nearly, I think, 150 years or so, the Ringling Brothers.
Oh, something like that from what I was reading. But honestly, my reading stopped when I saw his name, because I was like, I ain't interested in the exploitation of people in the wrong. He took so many jobs away from so many people. Like, this was genuine jobs for some people, and they took a lot of pride in what they did because of what nature had brought to them. It wasn't a curse. It was something to be celebrated. And you had the likes of certain circuses, and this one in this movie, because you do have people who have no disability at all, who work in the circus, who treat these people with nothing but respect, nothing but love. They talk to, this is the difference in the characters. And when we get into the film, is one of them who, fuck me, does she chew all the scenery. She talks to them in such a derogatory way, but the people who are the other people, like Venus, love, respect. And this is all that these people wanted. And I've seen The Greatest Showman once. That's enough. I cannot go and say, look at it, and I wish they just used someone else's name.
I like the songs, and Kiara Settle will always win me over with "This Is Me."
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's one of those, if you're not someone who is really dipped toe into the world of circus or the world of sideshow or the world of freak shows, you're unaware of what liberties some people have taken. They have these things called sideshow gaffs, which are fakes. They are made for you to think they're real, but they're not. So you see things like the Fiji mermaid, and the Fiji mermaid is basically like a half person sewn to a mermaid body, but it's not a person. It's like we're not talking Dwight Fishboy, we're not talking that kind of thing, but they're only about this big, and they look like they're dried taxidermy, like they found them, and the Fiji mermaid. But They're not real. They're literally sewn together out of goat hide, I think that someone said, and fish tails and stuff like that to make these things. But people would be so enamored with the Fiji mermaid, they'd pay their nickel, they'd pay their dime to go in and look at it. And to them, that wasn't a waste of money. That was like, wow, I've seen one, wow. For them, it was real. There was no internet to say, this is bullshit.
Yeah, Wikipedia did not exist then. I'm gonna be very honest with this. In this episode, I should say, I found, and I'm gonna use the word found, the idea of sideshows and the circus to be quite uncomfortable viewing. I put that down through my experience with American Horror Story Freak Show. I was quite uncomfortable watching that. I don't know how. I can't explain the feeling of what, and I was very worried going into watching this film, and then because I was like, oh gosh, what if I like say the wrong thing, or I'm looking at something and thinking, oh, what is that? I'm trying to be honest without trying to come across as a dick at the same time. But when I watched it, and then I started reading about the people, I saw so much more beauty than I ever expected.
I think I identify with these people more than I would do an able-bodied person in that time, in that era, because there was, which sounds ridiculous of me being an able-bodied person, but knowing how it feels not to fit in, and I can't compare to disability-wise, I'm not talking in that respect, but just the general feeling of being ostracized or not being able to fit in or not knowing where your place is. Well, you have a sense of empathy for these guys in this environment. So,
and that's what I got when I was watching this, because I don't know what the likelihood is when it comes to American Horror Story, it's American Horror Story, and that can not just make me feel uncomfortable, but really get on my fucking nerves at the same time. I watched Freak Show again a few years ago and had another experience where I was like, oh, that actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But when I watched this, I went in with kind of like a bit of a knot in my stomach.
Right.
And I just felt it unraveling, and especially when I started to meet some of the characters and starting to like hear them talk and getting to know them a bit better. And I was like, oh, it's starting to fade away. I'm good. I'm trying to say that they did used to make me feel uncomfortable. They don't now. And especially with the documentaries I've been watching as well, and getting to know the people, the twins, the conjoined twins, love them so much.
They were born in England.
Yeah, they're English.
Yeah, and then they moved out to the US, but then they sued their mum, if I remember correctly.
So
she used to beat them and scare them. Like she was the mother in American. There is so much comparison here for American Horror Story. Ryan Murphy took the backstory of the main four characters from Freak Show and decided to put a narrative around them. He didn't do it with Harry and Daisy, which is Hans and Frida. He didn't do it with them. He took the doll people out, but he kept, because he had More Petite, but that was another
More Petite.
He had another sort of she wasn't a main character.
No, not like what Frida and Hans were.
No, but with the twins in the TV show, because I watched the first episode of American Horror Story straight after I watched Freaks last night, because I wanted to see how much of a comparison there was. And apart from the fact that they have Evan Peters playing the Lobster Boy, who, if you know your sideshow and you know your people, he was playing Grady Stiles. Now, Grady Stiles was a lobster boy and he came from a lobster family. Lobster boys and lobster people are traditionally not only their hands but their legs as well.
Right.
And they can't necessarily walk. They have like bow legs, and their pelvises are deformed in a way which makes it very uncomfortable for them to be able to do things like that. So they glamorized straight away. Ryan Murphy glamorized the whole lobster boy thing. And then you see the opening scene is where the milkman finds the Tatler twins' mum dead on the floor. And the gist from what I can gather is she was a horrible woman who used to scare the living daylights out of the kids, to say the girls could never go outside, no one would ever accept them, they're monstrosities, they should stay where no one knows them, all that sort of stuff. And then when you start reading about the twins and you find out, well, actually that is pretty much their story, but the mum
Very,
didn't die,
no, well, she did, but not through their,
No,
not through
not
their
through that.
hands. But it was Daisy and Violet Hilton. They were born in England, and because of their conjointness, they figured that their life would be their day-to-day life would never be as normal as not in England. So they went off to America. They went to North Carolina, and their parents sold them to a couple. So it wasn't their parents, it was the
Right.
couple
Right.
who basically bought the twins, because it was a case of, we'll give them this life that will give them stability, will give them money, will give them work, and they got them into the vaudeville acts, and these were very, very successful conjoined twins. They were making mega bucks.
Yeah.
They didn't fucking see a penny of it,
Mm.
because the parents who bought them, and I say parents, and would take all the money because they were under their guardianship. It wasn't until this film, or around it, because they only did 2 films, this one and a documentary that's kind of closely based on their lives, that they got help to get themselves legally emancipated, not only from them, but their actual parents, so they couldn't come after them either. So they made themselves completely and solely independent by emancipating these people and winning a shit ton of these. I mean,
$100,000 in 1940 something, 50 something, I think it was around about then.
Yeah.
So you're talking, it would have been in the millions.
Yeah, they both married. One of them had a child. But unfortunately, in 1965, they were found dead together. They died from Japanese flu. One died. They believe that one died 4 days before the other.
Oh God.
So one of them had to sit with the other for 4 days until they passed on. And what a heartbreaking end for them. When I was reading about them, it didn't seem like they had an ounce of sadness in their lives, because they had each other. And they were really strong together. Everything they did was as one mind. And it's just so sad that one of them had to go. And I guess that's how it would have went regardless. But it's just sad to think that one of them had to sit there and wait to then, if you believe in the afterlife, to be joined by them. It's just, it's heartbreaking. But I didn't get, for that's heartbreaking, I just didn't get any sadness out of their story. I was quite intrigued by reading about them. They were beautiful as well. That gorgeous face.
They were loosely based on an actual real, obviously they were real. The Tatlers were loosely based on those, but the Tatlers were also loosely based on another set of twins who were Chang and Ang Bunker, they were called.
I remember them.
Yeah, and they were Siamese twins, but these were the guys that originally coined the term Siamese twins, because they were from Siam. So the term Siamese twins literally comes from these guys specifically, and then has been applied to everybody that's been like them since. But they were born in 1811. And the weird thing about these two, when they were discovered swimming together in the river. And when they got out, a guy was like, I can make money out of you. But they were only conjoined by 4 inches of flesh. That was it. That's all they were conjoined by. But you're talking the 1800s. So there would be no hope of
one of them would have made it. The other one might not have. There was another story I read about about Daisy and Violet when they came out, because work dried up when vaudeville went, and they actually went into burlesque. And yeah, they went into burlesque, a very unique burlesque show, but it worked for them. But then that started to dry out, and they then had to get a real job, especially after the emancipation. They wanted to make sure that they were having they kind of wanted to experience life as well. So they just went to a supermarket and said, have you got a job for us? And the guy was like, absolutely, yeah, no worries. What he did was, because he didn't want people, because he loved these women were so likable that you can look beyond what it is you're looking at, because they were 2 different people. When they were emancipated, they actually started dressing differently. So they didn't dress. They used to have to dress the same all the time, and then they started to get their own personalities once they were emancipated, and they just. I loved reading about these women. But what the guy did was he had them at a till checkout.
Yeah.
But he had some form of like divider that would make it look like one was on one side, one was on the other, and that they weren't conjoined, so nobody could poke fun at them, say anything towards them. He wanted them to feel as comfortable as they possibly could be in their day-to-day job. And it made us smile to think that that's how people like that were there, because there's not a lot of people who would have or could have treated them like that.
Yeah, that was, I mean, it was that it's nice when you hear that, but then how they go is really sad, because it's the same with that Chang and Ang. They basically, Chang had a stroke in 1870, which left him in a bad way, but Ang was fine. And then in 1974, Chang died of bronchitis.
Oh no.
3 days later, Ang died because he had inevitable organ failure, and he got sepsis through sharing that 4-inch flap. The sepsis flooded his body because they had a circulatory system share in that 4-inch gap that then killed them. So it is one of those things where I'm fascinated by the human body as it is, in life and in death. And when you get people that are, and I'm going to say it because many people I know will disagree with me, but I think are blessed with something that makes them so unique. I'm sure it's not seen as a blessing sometimes, and I can completely understand that. But you're a wonder. You're somebody that defies the odds. You're somebody that, despite
everything,
you know, that despite what society may say that you are, you're the majority of these guys live long lives.
Hey,
like
you
hella long lives.
Yeah, let's talk about bloody Hans and Frida, because they lived until they were 90. They had a hell of a. They are the most adorable. But there was one thing I did not want to do while watching this film is have pity, because I don't think they need my pity for them. And the minute I saw Hans and Frida, I didn't feel pity.
No.
I just was like, you are fucking adorable. You honestly, but they are so intriguing at the same time. Very hard to understand to start with, Frida, especially because it's a German accent, very high pitched, with terrible sound quality.
Yeah.
And I struggled a lot, but when the film started going on, I think my ears started to in tune a bit more, and I could get him, on the other hand, could understand clear, because he spoke very slowly. They are brother and sister, even though they played husband and wife in the film. And they tried to make it that they didn't have any touchy-feely scenes, because they were very aware that these are, and also their career outside of movies would have been shattered if they had done too much touchy-feely, because they are known as a family of performers.
Yeah, the Doll family.
The Doll family, that's it. That I was trying to like think of it quickly. The Doll family. So there's Hans, who is actually Harry Earls, and there is Frida, who is Daisy Earls, but there's also the two other sisters as well.
Yes. Grace and Billy, yeah. And
they were part of a huge vaudevillian act, and they had lives. They lived for each other.
But they had a special type of dwarfism. Because this is what people, this is where we go into this weird selection of when people call somebody who's under, the definition is, if you're under 4'11", you are classed as a dwarf, right?
Sorry, Mum.
Size of definitions. So you're Danny DeVito, right? Or my sister, because everybody that 4'11".
My mum.
Yeah. But the thing that gets me is there are so many variants of dwarfism. You haven't just got your achondroplasia, which is your Warwick Davis dwarfism. You've also got your standard, like, then you've got your midget kind of dwarfism, which is where your proportions are off. Then you've got another kind of dwarfism where all your proportions are in except for the length of your arms and your legs. So your torso is the right size, your head's the right size, all your organs are correctly sized, but your arms and your legs aren't. And there's many different like versions of dwarfism. And so when you hear about this kind of dwarfism with these guys, they are very much likened to it's called primordial dwarfism. I know a lot about dwarfs because, you know, honorary, but the primordial dwarves are a very rare genetic bunch of people. They don't tend to make it past 11 or 12. They don't get a very long lifespan. But these guys aren't primordial, but they are adjacent, if you know what I mean, because they are exactly the right stature. Their organs are the right stature for, you know, everything is right for their size, but they just stop growing. Whereas with primordial dwarfism, everything internally keeps growing, but the body itself doesn't, and hence why their lives aren't very, very long. But yeah, and it's very strange because when you say, oh, they're a dwarf, they're like, no, they can't be, because they're used to the Warwick Davis idea of dwarfism.
Yeah.
And it's like there's much more of a bigger umbrella.
As I learned.
If anyone hasn't seen Freaks, you will have seen Harry Earls in another classic movie, because he is part of the Lollipop Guild. And the minute I saw his face, Dan, I knew exactly who he was. In that goddamn film.
I wonder if he was one of the ones that had a bit of the disgrace against him, but I don't think so, because a lot of the midgets were really bad on the production of The Wizard of Oz. They were dirty old men.
Who's the other midget who's in midget? Little, what's the right term? What's the right terminology? Is it midget?
It depends which one you're talking about.
There's somebody else. Yeah,
Antonio, right? The Great Antonio, as far as I'm aware, was it was just dwarfism that he had,
right?
But he went on to have a hell of a career. Antonio, he's the one. If you've seen the film, he's the one that has the loving cup, and he's the one that's making everybody drink from the cup that's when he's standing on the table. He went on to star in 30 or 40 movies. His very last film that I'm aware of was one of my favorites of apocalyptic movies, which was Mad Max Thunderdome. He appeared in that. So he died. I didn't write it down. I thought I'd written it down. He had a hell of a life.
Hell of a life. But he is one of many who had very vocal disdain for this movie. Yeah,
it was what happened with, I think the biggest downfall with this film was the 90-minute version that no one will ever get to see was a better movie than the 1 hour and X amount. I think it's 1 hour and 4 minutes or something that we see today.
The edit at the end is so fucking weird that I knew that there's something that has replaced something, because that edit where you end up with hands at the end, I'm like, that's additional. That's been added in later. Todd, what are you doing? What is happening?
Well, he didn't get a choice. This was the studio's choice. The studio went away and cut the film without Todd's knowledge. They cut the film without consulting him in any way about how the story was to go. Because in the original movie, the ending is very, very different. They cut a huge chunk of the ending off. So you get to see more about the demise of the characters through the eyes of the troupe. But they cut that out because people were saying that when they originally put the screenings up, people were running out, throwing up. Some woman claimed she had a miscarriage because she was in such bad way after watching it. Even the woman who played Cleopatra, Olga Balsanova, or whatever her name is, she had a disdain. She had a huge prejudice towards the other actors. Some of the quotes I came across from what she was saying, I if I could travel back in time just to punch her in the face, I would.
I'd punch her in the face of that fucking performance.
I mean, that performance itself, she did good. I mean, don't get me wrong, you got what you needed from her.
She ate the fucking scenery, though.
Yeah.
My goodness, they didn't. When I was watching that documentary, everyone was saying we don't understand why she acted that way. That was not the direction she was given. Was to screech like a banshee. Clearly, it works, but when they pointed it out, and then I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, you really do screech, lady. Tod Browning himself worked in the circus.
Yeah.
Hence the reason why he got the inspiration for this. Now, everything I read about Tod Browning's starting point in this movie has Lon Chaney attached to it.
Yes.
But I could not find. Well, obviously, Lon Chaney dies in 1930. 1930, because we all know from our Dracula episode, if you watch that,
he was supposed to be.
he was supposed to be Dracula, and Tod Browning took a really fucking hard time. He never got over Lon Chaney's death, but I couldn't see what it is Lon Chaney was, because he's tied to this film, but I don't know what the tie is.
He was going to play, from what I read, he was going to be, I think, the clown. He was going to be Walter Wallace, sorry, Frozzo.
Frozzo.
That was going to be his part, because they wanted oh god, what was her name? The beautiful actress.
Venus. Lila Haynes.
Yeah, they wanted someone else to play her. I have got it written down here. But going back to that, the Freaks movie was going to start in 1925, hence why Lon Chaney was originally attached to it, because long talks about it. MGM were still in their sort of silent phase in 1925, so they were trying to come out of that. And they'd done a movie which was directed by Browning, called The Unholy Three.
Right.
And had Lon Chaney in it, and that's how him and Chaney met. And yeah, it's basically because Browning had the previous experience in sideshow, as he used to be a contortionist.
Yeah, a clown and a contortionist.
Yeah. So he talked to Chaney about it, because he thought with Chaney, after Chaney done Man of a Thousand Faces and all that sort of thing,
yeah,
he would be in he would be able to pull off the clown character more. And obviously there's a lot more to the character that we didn't get to see, because they cut a lot of Frozzo's stuff out, because they said it was just exposition, it was not really needed. But he didn't really have a character development in any way. You just knew that he loved he loved Venus, and that was about it. And he loved all the people
and he did. He's the voice of how everyone should be with these people. Now, Wallace Ford, whose real name is Samuel Grundy Jones, is actually an English actor. Do you know the story behind his name?
No, I don't actually.
Oh my gosh, right. Okay, so he comes from Bolton, Lancashire.
Right.
And Wallace Ford is his stage name, but it's also the name of his best friend who died in front of him when he was a child.
Oh God.
And it was a case of he wanted his best friend to live on forever. And what other way could you do that by making it your stage name and you being in a film? So his name will live forever. I bawled my eyes out when I read that story. I was like, what a man, he is just so beautiful.
It's the way he's talking to Schlitzie, like when Schlitzie comes over and Schlitzie's like looking at him, and he's like, I'm going to buy you the nicest dress when we get to Paris. I'm going to buy you a big hat with a big feather. And Schlitzie was just getting really excited, because it's like Schlitzie could only talk in real life and in the movie for very short sentences, because that was the capability of Schlitzie. But Schlitzie lived until he was 70 years old.
He was a he, even though in American Horror Story, the Schlitzie character is played by a female, Schlitzie is a he. And my God, Schlitzie, if there is anyone who is a champion for this film, Schlitzie is it.
Yeah, Schlitzie.
He loved this.
Yeah, and you also had Pip and Zip, who were Elvira and Jenny, I want to say their real names were.
Elvira, I've just seen it. Elvira Snow. Oh, what a lovely name. And Jenny Lee Snow.
Yeah. They were Pip and Zip, and then he had Schlitzie, and Schlitzie is Schlitzie's not real name, but the name that Schlitzie lived under. Schlitzie's real name was Simon, and he wore a dress in this movie because they thought it would make all of them look more childlike. It wasn't for a gender stereotype. It wasn't to think for any reason. This was why I love this film. There is so much forward thinking without them even thinking it's forward thinking. It is just treating people in a way in which they want to be treated. Like Schlitzie could have had the ability to turn around and say, no, I don't want to do that. Schlitzie still had a very mindful mindset, you know, to be quite cantankerous. So I read. Brilliant.
I read that too. I read when it came down to actors who turned their back on this film, Schlitzie was not one of them. Champion until the end. If Schlitzie wasn't in a scene or called for that day, Schlitzie would still come in. He loved every single part. Tod treated him lovingly, with respect, and they had a very good relationship. He was called Samuel Whiskers. That was his name. But Schlitzie is the name that he will be forever known as, because that was his stage name as well as his character name. I adore Schlitzie so much. The innocence and the childlike behavior, and the stalk lady who, oh my gosh, the protection out of that woman and the fierceness out of that woman. Like, fuck me, I would not want to get on the bad side of her.
Well, the thing about Schlitzie was, in real life, Schlitzie had a real rough go of stuff. Schlitzie was born in 1901, and Schlitzie had something called I knew I'd get it wrong. Microcephaly.
You did so well, because all I had to break it down as to know what the condition was, as opposed to try and say the name.
Microcephaly is basically the pinhead syndrome, which is what we know it as, pinhead syndrome. And then pinhead is perfectly fine to use because it is what they call those people in the sideshow community. So in the sideshow context of which we're talking about, pinhead is fine. It's not an insult. You're not using it as an insult. The film took place. Schlitzie did Schlitzie's bit, and then a sideshow took him under their wing called George Surtees, and George looked after Schlitzie until George died. Now, when George died, George's daughter was a piece of dog shit, and she sent Schlitzie to a mental institution because she washed her hands of him. She was like, I don't want anything to do with that anymore.
He was not ill.
No, but she thought,
I know,
because stupid people and uneducated people back in the day. But when he was in the institution, they had a sword swallower come in and do some acts, and his name was Bill Unks. And Bill saw Schlitzie and was like, I know Schlitzie, I've seen the film. The film's been a thing. Schlitzie's amazing. So he became his custodian guardian and took him out of the asylum and put him back in the shows with him, like started touring freak shows again. Schlitzie died in 1971.
Yeah.
1971. So when you start looking at the time frame, considering this film was 1932, when you find out when half of these guys died, it's like it really wasn't that long ago.
They lived a life. They lived a full life as well.
But the sad thing about Schlitzie was there was no money by the time Schlitzie was to be buried. So Schlitzie was buried in an unmarked grave. And what happened was, fans of the movie, fans of Sideshow, fans of just Schlitzie in general managed to either somehow fund the ability to get him a gravestone.
I love when people do that. I love. I know he's not your favorite human being, but Scott Michaels is part of the. Use my words very carefully here. The death hags. It's the best way to describe them. People who are like myself, who are fascinated with graves and the celebrity and story behind them, and they have found quite a few unmarked graves, and they have done fundraisers for it. But the most recent one, nothing to do with Scott Michaels, this is all to do with Hollywood Graveyard. Brilliant YouTube channel. If you love your death, if you love your celebrity, you love your graveyard, it's one of my favorites. I fall asleep to it because Arthur, who is the host, has the most soothing voice you'll ever hear in your life. I think I've told this story before, where they found the actor who played Father Christmas in A Miracle on 34th Street in the original. They found his ashes in the archives of Hollywood Forever Cemetery, because the archives is fucking huge. They found him. He was missing for a lot of years, and they did a whole GoFundMe, and he has his own urn. He has his own place. He's no, not him.
No, it's the same story that happened with Fred, though, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yes, they found him too.
Yeah, Fred was found in the back of a cupboard in one of the many cemeteries. It might have been Hollywood Forever.
If
was
it probably
big,
is.
Yeah, one of the big cemeteries, and they found Fred, and he had no one had claimed him basically.
No,
and that to me, he's an iconic face, and he was on the TV for so many years, even on reruns. Then he was in 80s movies like Pet Sematary and The Boy Who Could Fly, and he was there. You saw him, and then
from not to be claimed. There's eight vaults. I want to say 8 vaults in Hollywood. I think it's Hollywood Forever Cemetery, or is it Glendale? I can't remember which one it is. It's one of the big two. And when I say these are vaults, these are like rooms of the mass amount of space, and just every inch is taken up with a tiny grey box that is someone. And there's a lot of actors who just wanted to be left there. They didn't want to be found. They just wanted to be in obscurity.
Yeah.
But there's some who, like Fred, like the guy from Miracle on 34th Street, when no one comes to claim them, then you start asking the question: did they want to be there, or did they want to be found? But I think the Miracle on 34th Street guy, he was a mystery for a lot of years. So they clearly were looking for him, because the videos on YouTube where they find him, and the lass's face is just in astonishment. She's like, he's in my hands. I've got him here.
It's sad to think, though, that a lot of the sideshow guys from this movie, not all of them, but some of them died penniless, because the level of advantage that was taken of a lot of these people was shocking. But not shocking because you'd expect selfish people to act in that in that way when they know that they're what I would call possibly easy targets.
Yeah, but some of the sideshow and the circus started to die out at a certain point as well. So, and that's all they'd ever done. So of course money was this is the twins' problem.
Yeah,
their act, it started to become redundant. It wasn't the other things. Things were changing. Music was starting to become what people were going out to see, and unfortunately, they didn't fit into how things, like, their act couldn't continue on, basically. Another guy who really took my interest was Half Boy, Johnny Eck.
Oh, Johnny Eck, yeah. Well, Johnny Eckhart, yeah.
Oh yes. What an intro. What did they say about him on the documentary? He could have been a news anchor, because he's a beautiful man. He got a beautiful face. He could have been a news anchor, and nobody would be able to tell that he didn't have a lower part to his body, because he was so. They said he learned to walk on his hands, because he's got an identical twin brother.
Yeah.
Before his brother could walk.
Yeah, at the age of 1, he was walking on his hands, apparently. The thing about Johnny was born in 1911, and he was, now bear with me, he was diagnosed with sacral agenesis, which is he can fully live a full life because all the organs he needs are in the part of his body that he does have. He just does not have anything from the pelvis down. He has the most strongest arms known to the Guinness Book of Records. Should have him in there for it, I'm sure. But he was well renowned for, by the age of 3, doing his one-armed handstands, because he could carry his whole body weight on one arm, which is impressive at the age of 3. I can't even do that at the age of 44. So.
No, I've read so much about this man that there's one question I didn't ask or didn't read about: how his digestive system worked.
I think he had some extremities, because he still had to go to the bathroom, and he still, so he would have had the ability to go to, I'm sure I read somewhere that said he had the ability to go to the bathroom, but he didn't have any functioning sexual organs, if that makes sense.
It does make a lot of sense. Because when you see him and they call him half boy, he
It's under the
literally,
ribs.
it just looks smooth, doesn't it? Like it looks flat.
Yeah, I think they padded him out in the film, but I think it stops just under his rib cage. So if you feel where your ribs are, the very bottom of where your ribs are, that's where his body stops. So all of his organs, hence why he looks a bit more hench.
Oh yeah.
All of his organs are pushed up.
He is butch, like buff.
But Johnny, they padded out I'm sure they padded out the bottom of him to make him look more square in the film. Because if you see a lot of him, there's some pictures, if you do Google any of these guys, when you Google Johnny Eck, there are photos of him where he doesn't look so rounded off. He's more tapered, but I feel like they were going for more of a shock value, so they wanted it like.
It makes sense. It does make sense, but it was the minute you mentioned his anatomy, I was like, oh, how does he go to the toilet? I'm gonna have to ask this question.
Did you know he was an accomplished Punch and Judy operator?
I did.
I found that hilarious. I was just like, really?
Yeah.
He loved photography and he loved making models. Like, he would have been a Warhammer enthusiast in the day.
Yeah, he would have. Another one who intrigued me, but there's not a great deal of information about him, is the living torso, Prince Radina. I hope I've said his name right there. Randina?
He's got two, but the one that he went under is, now I've got it as Radian, but that could be completely different. Yeah, I don't know.
Randien. We'll call him Prince. I can read that word.
1999.
He is such an interesting person. Watching him roll a cigarette with no hands and no legs was impressive.
So you saw the version where he did that?
Yeah, he's sitting.
Now that's the cut scene. That's a cut scene.
Ah, okay, yeah. He's talking to oh my gosh, I want to say Wallace Ford.
Yeah, he's talking to
Frozen. And he's rolling it with his mouth.
The bit I saw is that they're having the conversation, and then he's lighting. He's getting the match out to light the cigarette. But I don't see him roll the cigarette when they're having the conversation. So I'm pretty sure that is one of the cut scenes. But just to go back to Johnny quickly, he died in 1991.
Yes, he did.
Of the ripe old age of 80 years old, right? Yeah, unfortunately died of a heart attack, but he died in the same house he was born.
Oh.
So
I mean, if I die tomorrow, I die in no, that's a lie, because I'll be at my mum's house. If I die in 2 weeks' time, I'll die in the same street I was born in. Does that count? Binks, you're not getting next to me keyboard. I remember the last time you got next to it. You paused the whole video. He's missed his mum. I've been away for a night and he's missed us. Yeah, Johnny was an interesting character, but not like super extraordinary. It was just the life that he had was interesting, but it was, for someone who was so extraordinary, it was such a normal, ordinary life that he led, if that makes sense.
Yeah, him and Tod Browning had a really good friendship, and he was one of, like you say, he was one of the ones who would never have a bad word to say about the film.
Just to look at his face, I don't think he could ever have a bad word to say about anyone. He has the sweetest face, a very kind nature. And I know this is just going off a character in a movie, but I can't imagine that there's a lot of difference in them. Do you know what I mean? I don't see, they're not the strongest actors. I feel like it's very almost autobiographical, as in them playing themselves.
Yeah, they wanted to make sure they had a true representation. That's what Tod wanted. He wanted a true representation of the people that were in the circus and in the shows at the time, because he didn't see the problem with hiring these people, because this movie was about those people. And the only people that had issues with it were the people at MGM. So when they were filming the movie, this bit made me so angry when I found this out, but you have to put it into the context of the time shot.
Yeah.
Now, bearing in mind, this would have been filmed in 1931, late end of 1931. They had to put up marquees in the car parks, like extra land, because the rest of the MGM people would not dine with them. They wouldn't dine with the circus performers. They said they made them feel sick, they made them feel ill, and they made them feel uncomfortable. The only people that were allowed to dine in there were the 5 able-bodied people that featured in the film, which was Hercules the strongman, Cleopatra the trapeze artist, Venus the seal trainer, Frozo the clown, and Madame Tetralini, which was the woman who ran it, who is the Elsa Mars character from AHS. But they were the only 5, because they were all able-bodied, that were allowed to eat, but some of them refused to eat with the MGM people and sat and ate with the
good. Louis B. Mayer, if anyone recognizes that name, he absolutely hated this. He was horrified. He was disgusted. He tried everything to get this shut down, and it wasn't for Ivan Thalsberg, we wouldn't have this film. Tod Browning would not have gotten his way. Ivan was his anchor, was his right-hand man, was the one person who was driving this movie, because Louis B. Mayer would have had it shut right down. He can get fucked. This
is the thing. I think I can't put myself into the mindset of someone that would be physically reactive to the cast members in this film. I can't see how, and I know I am an exception to a rule, because I'm not somebody who sees, I take people for who they are. I would love to sit down and have a conversation with every one of those characters, just to find out, like, things and stuff, and because I'm so nerdy, I like to know that sort of thing, and
everything,
and for me to comprehend that people treated him that way, and they had such visceral reactions to a half person, to a woman who was the bearded lady, who clearly either had who had PCOS, right? That's what the bearded lady was. It was a woman with PCOS. The human werewolf boy, Jojo the dog boy in real life, he had hypertrichosis, which meant he had hair growing over his entire body, which was also known as werewolf syndrome. And the Circus of Horrors, when I first started sponsoring them years and years and years ago, they used to have a guy that had hypertrichosis, that had werewolf syndrome, head to toe, no skin, nothing, human werewolf. And to talk to them in the flesh, it is fascinating. And all I said to him was, "You must be hot." Because that's all I kept thinking of. I know how hot my head gets. Like, I kept thinking that was over my entire face and on my neck, and on my...
I would be so irritated. I totally get the whole hot hair thing. Binksy, you're not going next to my keyboard.
They live their life with these little things on top of how people perceive them, but they have so much more to fight against, than just the visual, if you know what I mean.
The bearded lady isn't featured a great deal in this movie. No. She has the baby, and that's really all. And her life is very it's not clouded in secret, it's just not documented.
She didn't like the film. She was one of the hardcore people who stated that this film did no good for the sideshow community. She fell into obscurity not long after the movie was made. She stayed around long enough to voice her opinions on it, and then she disappeared. She got married to somebody, and I don't know whether she joined another show and went off, or she just went and lived her life.
It's so sad that she doesn't know the impact that she had. There's a woman on the documentary I watched, which is available on YouTube. If you look for freaks documentaries, this is one of the ones I come highly recommended. It's on YouTube. I think it's got Spanish subtitles, but it's watchable. And there's a woman on who is a bearded lady in the circus today, and she is incredibly grateful for the path that she set out in 1932, along with many other women, but she does credit her as being one of them. And she just says, I wish she knew how much she changed my life and how I feel accepted because of her.
Yeah, it's insane when you start looking at what these guys technically had. I don't want to say wrong with them, because there was nothing wrong with them, but
no,
you know what these guys were lived with, shall we say. You know, things that could be dealt with now, like in the real life. There was the woman who, and this one I find crazy, Myrtle Corbin. She was the one who had she's one of the most famous sideshow pictures you will see when you Google sideshow. She's the woman with 4 legs.
Oh,
and you see it in black and white pictures where she's got 2 smaller legs in the middle and the 2 larger legs on the outside. And genuine picture. A lot of people think it was faked, but Myrtle Corbin was born with 2 pelvises, so she'd obviously been part of a twin that never developed.
Oh my gosh! Okay.
So she had 2 sexual organs. She had 2 reproductive systems. She had 2 sets of pelvises, but her 2 middle feet could work. She could cross them and things, but they couldn't take her weight. So her 2 external longer legs, were the ones that held her weight. Her story was pretty sad until she started doing sideshow. She was making $450 in the 1800s a week, which is, when you do the conversion, £14,000 or $14,000 a week, based on people just coming and paying their dime just to take one look at her and then walk out. $14,000. That was a businesswoman's mind, in my opinion, because she knew she was something that was of curiosity for somebody, and she capitalized on it by being able to. She wasn't one of these people that was proud about it. She knew she could make money, and she knew that she had an ability to be able to go out there and do it. And she ended up dying. Right, this is the sad thing about this one. She ended up dying of a bronchitis, but her family, her husband and her kids, were so worried that grave robbers would come and take her skeleton.
Oh no!
They had her casket completely encased in cement, in concrete, so no one could come and dig her up, which I thought was like, wow, that's something.
Yeah, they did that with Marie Curie as well.
Well,
Very
that was
different
radiation. That'll be the radiation that did that, though.
Yeah, I always find that story so funny. It's that they buried her in a normal grave to then realize a few years later what she died of, and was like, oh shit, maybe we should do something about that. I've actually seen Marie Curie's grave. She's in the Pantheon in Paris. Her and her husband were moved there. It's like a ceremonial thing for Paris's elite in history. I'm not saying like anyone can get in there.
Yeah, you've got to have done something of worthiness, of notedness or something.
Yeah. Josephine Baker, she's not in there, but she has a place, like a marker. It's the same as, to look at it, it's exactly the same as what Marie Curie is in, but Marie Curie is actually in there, concreted in there, lead lined in there. No radiation's coming out of there, but Josephine Baker's family didn't want her to be, there was like, she's at rest, let's leave her at rest. But if you want, you can, because it's a big ceremony in Paris. They have a whole big thing at the Pantheon. It's amazing. If anyone can ever get
people,
if anyone can ever get down to the Pantheon in Paris, I had a fucking blast there. It was just grave after grave, but the graves are beautiful. They're white, they're clean.
Yeah,
it's so loved it. Anyways,
when you look at a lot of the cast members of this, there are a lot that did fade into obscurity, because you have the Madame Tetralini. She's only in it when she calls when all the pinheads are running around and some of the
calls them
other
together.
guys And she said she justifies them to the landowner. She's like, they're children, they're my children. And what I loved was that guy, the groundsman, was going on and going on in that guy's ear, saying, "You should have seen these. We saw them at the circus, and it was disgusting, and all this sort of stuff." And the minute they come across him, he's like trying to shoo them away, and they all run away, and they all cuddle to Madame Tetralini, and she just refers to them as children. And the landowner's just like, "Oh, leave them be. They're just children," and walked off. And I just thought, do you know what? That was unexpected, because I was, the first time you watch it, you expect him to go, "Get off my land, off you go," but he didn't. He was like, "That's fine, leave them be. They're quite happy."
You had the other guy who was losing his shit over it, but he was quite calm, and she even says, like, it's just fresh air, we're just getting some fresh air, it's, there's no harm in getting fresh air, and they're just children, they're just playing. And he's like, yeah, you're right, I'm a rational person, I can totally see that this is completely nutly fine. There is no big deal here.
But no one knows what happened to her after. She was one of these ones that faded into obscurity. Another one was Josephine Joseph, who was the half man, half woman. In this,
or
where
was she?
Well, this is the thing. She claimed she was, even they were, should I say, because I'm not 100% sure the terminology you would have used in 1932.
No.
But Josephine Joseph kept one half of their body shaved, tanned, made up, and the other half kept
rugged,
more masculine.
manly.
But for me, in my opinion, for what it's worth, and I am no expert, I do think Josephine Joseph may have not been an actual, and I'm going to use the term because
it's the only one I know.
Yeah, it's the only one I know that describes it in that time frame, in those years, and also because the other terms for it have a lot more complications that I don't know if she had or not. I don't think she was classed as a hermaphrodite back in those days.
The terminology they used in the documentary was intersex.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. I was going to say intersex, but then I know intersex comes with a lot more.
Yeah, a lot more. Now it does, but even the documentary was done years and years ago. But yeah, there's questions amongst people who question Josephine Joseph's actual legitimacy. And was this just a way to get into the circus? And do you know what? If it is, who gives a fuck?
Exactly.
Who gives a fuck? It was a great gimmick. It was fantastic. She scared the men. She had a lot of men be very questioned, like had a lot of questions in their head on how they felt about it, because when the woman's side, beautiful. She kept it perfect. And then you've got the other side, which is there's still beauty there. Like she can be as rugged as she wants to be, or they can be as rugged as they wants to be. But there is definite beauty in there. And it was the whole, don't do it because she may cry, but he may beat you up. And I'm like, bitch, just go get them. Just go get them. And it was the silence from them as well. Like
they hardly talked. But
there was no need to, because the whole body language spoke for them. Like it was, I was mesmerized and intrigued at the same time. But I did try and look for Josephine Joseph's information.
Nothing.
And I couldn't. No, not a thing.
The other one that made me quite sad about the life they led after the show was Frances O'Connor, who was the
I've just seen Frances's name, Armless Girl.
Yeah, she was born without arms, so she learned to use her feet pretty quickly. She, once the film had been on, she got a few jobs here and there, but nothing of any note. And she just faded into obscurity, died with no husband, no children, no family. And just
my gosh.
Which I thought was pretty sad, because she was stunning. I thought she was absolutely stunning.
Beautiful. Absolutely. The scene, the only time I see her properly is at the table.
Eating and drinking.
The Google gobble. We accept her, one of us. That scene just made me happier and happier as it went on, because I could just see how much she was losing her shit over it. Should we quickly go over the film, because we haven't really?
Yeah, I just want to touch on Peter Robinson, who was the human skeleton.
Got Peter's name.
Yeah, he in real life married the now not my terminology of the day. You know when they have the overweight person, they used to call them the fat lady.
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
In real life, he married the fat lady of his sideshow, and she was somewhere like she was above 400 pounds.
Oosh.
So she was a big lady, and Peter, being the human skeleton, only weighed around like 50 pounds himself because he had a disease called progressive muscular atrophy, which was there was another guy who had it around the same time as him called Isaac Spragg, and Isaac Spragg was the one who the human skeleton got coined after. But yeah, he complained of cramping when he was a kid in his like muscles and things like that. And then when he hit 12, he just lost a load of weight and he never could put it on. He would carry food with him and drink with him, and he'd be eating 24/7. But he never could never get his weight up over 50 pounds because it just his body wouldn't have it. But yeah, the guy Spragg who when he died in 1887, he donated his body to science, to the Harvard Science Department, because he wanted them to find out, A, if there was a cure, B, if it was a genetic thing. He wanted people to know more about what it was he had, which is forward thinking in 1887.
It's such a selfless thing to do.
Yeah.
When I read any pathology book, or forensic pathology especially, they always say anyone who allows themselves to be either, passed over for medical research or even just has an autopsy done, it is the most unbelievably helpful thing that you will ever do in your life, because it doesn't just answer the questions of why you died. It also takes into account any medication that you were taking and what effect that has on your body and your organs, and what they can do to make changes or to make more people aware of certain symptoms. Like, this is the reason they know the symptoms, is because of stuff like this. And it is so, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it selfless?
I'd
Because
say so.
yeah,
You do it for the bigger picture.
yeah, you do. You're not
Right.
thinking of you. Like, and a lot of people do when it comes to death. They
Yeah.
do think of themselves and what they want their death to be like and their funeral to be like. And at the end, you, in the nicest way possible, you're not there.
No, you're gone. You won't get to see this thing. It's not,
I I had a huge thing about being a donor, because I didn't like the idea that they would take my eyes.
I
And
request that they don't take my eyes. That's my thing.
I've now signed off and said it's fine. But it took a lot of years for us to get over the fact that, like, I know what happens to your eyes after you die, so
You would want these gammy things. I mean, Jesus
they
Christ.
can take what they can. If I mean, yes, I do wear varifocals, and my left eye is not the greatest, but hey, have at it. The film itself
Yes, let's go
is,
through that.
it's not the longest of films, but and the story might seem very similar. If you've seen American Horror Story Freak Show.
Yeah.
And Dan's eye roll is warranted, because this is just, it's better done. It's an original. And I have, there's one tiny little gripe that I have, and it is to do with the edit at the end.
Yeah.
Because there is the beginning part of it is where it opens to where it's like, roll up, come and see the new amazing freak show, and it makes such a big song and dance, and all these women are getting hysterical and passing out and everything, and you don't get to see the reveal until the end, and it's over like that.
Yeah.
And you don't get to take it in. You don't get to appreciate what is actually in front of you. And I was quite sad at that. But that's my only gripe. That's it. It's over with. It's done with. Because the rest of it is just, it took us a while to sit there and go,
yeah,
okay. Because I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know how I was going to feel watching this. I didn't know what to expect. There's a lot of debate on this film, whether it's a horror or not.
Yeah.
They use that in the description of this film, and I left it out of my introduction because I didn't want to use the word grotesque.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dan, for audio listeners, Dan just did another eye roll, so that's eye roll number 2. I didn't want to use that word, but that is a word that is used quite a lot in the description of this film: grotesque horror.
Of the time, isn't it?
And I didn't like it.
No.
I didn't like it. After watching it, I saw nothing horrific. I mean, obviously there's something horrific, but it's not to the nature of what people expect to be horrific.
Yeah.
Because the characters in this, the people that are in this, are nothing but just beautiful, inspirational more than anything. How they take on everything. How they take, especially, like, let's use Josephine Joseph as an example. They take on so much shit and just comes off their shoulder. Like, they couldn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Because if they've heard it once, they've probably heard it 1,000 times. Yeah. So yeah, that's the opening of the film, is the whole roll up. Oh, what is that?
And then it cuts to Cleopatra on a trapeze, I think, if I remember.
Yeah, she's swinging away in the heavens. And
now, this is the only bit of an act that you ever see.
Really. Yeah, you don't see anything.
You don't see any of them doing any of their shows. So the gist of it is Cleopatra comes off her trapeze and she's about to walk through the thing, but you see Hans and Frida having a conversation next to the window, and you see next to the curtain, and he's looking out and he's besotted with Cleopatra. And you hear him say, she's the most beautiful big woman I've ever seen. And then Frida's like, she's trying to get out of him, what do you mean by that? Are you in love with her? And he's like, no, I'm not in love with her. Everything's fine.
No, Fraulein, you are the only one for me.
Yeah, and he's giving her the spiel. And then you know that Frida's act has something to do with horses, because she's put on the back of her horse. She sat side saddle on the back of a horse, and Cleopatra comes out and starts flirting with Hans, because she's aware that he's been staring at her, and she knows that Frida's watching as well, so she makes more of a thing about it. So this is where they're setting up the fact that Cleopatra is an absolute beast of a human being.
She is the monster.
Oh, 100%. She then starts taking the mickey out of Frida's dress, and Frida just keeps waving her off and tells her to get out and go away. So Frida goes off and does her act, and you see then Cleopatra's clocked the fact that Hans has got a thing for her. You see that she now starts to take advantage of Hans and starts to say, oh, can I borrow 100 francs? Can I do this?
And he's
have that.
Yeah, Fraulein, I'll have it in your dresser by tonight.
The finest champagnes, and like,
they don't put 2 and 2 together that Hans is either really fucking rich or about to come into a massive inheritance. And she conspires with the strong man, who, again, fucking horrific monster that he is, who doesn't look like a strong man.
No, he's very much he seemed like that's what all they could get for the part. His name was Henry Victor, sorry, and his name was Hercules in the movie. And when you first are introduced to him, Venus is leaving him. They were together, weren't they? She was storming out of the trailer.
Yeah, good on Venus. Glad she did that. I generally think that Johnny Eck could have taken him out. Not even joking, because he looked absolutely piss weak. So yeah, the Cleopatra and Hercules start to conspire with each other to basically see how much they can get out of Hans. And it's not until later on, so I can't remember if it's Frida lets it slip about the inheritance.
Yeah, basically it's a lot later on when you see that they're having the conversation going, oh, I'm sure he's got a bit of money somewhere, we'll be all right. But you can see that they've established that they're in a relationship, regardless, like, even though I don't know whether that's why Venus was leaving him, because she knew about him and Cleopatra, but they don't really explain it very well. But you're aware that those two are still conspiring while she is buttering up Hans for extra money, for this and for that. And then Frida goes to Hans and she says, you know, I've never seen you this way, and it's really upsetting me to see you this way. And she's even chatted to Venus at this point, saying, you know, she's a monster, that woman. I don't like her. She belittles me in front of him. And it's ever so sad, you know, it's ever so sad because she's having that conversation with her friend, you know, the way we would, just by saying that I don't know what to do, I'm at the end of my tether, you know, she seems to have this spell over him that I just can't, because Frida and Hans are supposed to be engaged to be married. So, you know, she's in this position where she thinks she's about to get married to him, and she's got no more than just love for him. There's no ulterior motive with Frida. So when she sits down with him, no, she sits down with, she goes to Cleopatra to try and appeal to any bit of humanity she has in her. And she's like, you know, he's mine, I love him. Please, you know, everybody's laughing at you.
Oh yeah, that's right, because that sits with her, doesn't it?
Yeah, she didn't like that bit, did she? When Frida said to her, everybody's laughing at you, she starts to make comments, and then Frida says, well, I know you're just after his money, or she says something, I know that you're just waiting for the inheritance, there's something there.
It looked like she almost like kind of got to her when she said that everyone's laughing, and she kind of like, it was almost like if she hadn't mentioned the money, she might have backed away, but then she just made it more impossible for her to do that. But Frida's got nothing in this but love. It's not money. She's only out for Han's best interest, whether that's with her or not with her. She doesn't want to see him get hurt. She can clearly tell there's something has come over him that he's probably never felt before, and she's not standing in his way to find out what that is. She is nothing but one of the best examples of a human being.
She turns, when they're having that little conversation around the table before the coffee comes, just before she goes to see Cleopatra, he said, but I love her, to Frida, and he let it slip that he was in love with her. And Frida looked like she'd been kicked in the stomach. Honestly, it was so that
face.
Her performance was heartbreaking to watch, and fantastic actress, absolutely fantastic. But she goes off then once she's dropped the clanger that he's owed, you know, he's owed a huge inheritance. He's a wealthy man. And Hercules was hiding around the back when she was having this conversation, if I remember rightly. And so he comes out, and then they start firing to basically knock off Hans, get married to him, steal his money, basically.
So this is the main story of it, is the Hans has been taken advantage of by Cleopatra and Hercules to where they are going to basically swindle him for everything that he's got. What is going on in the background is, because I think this is Tod Browning's way of saying, look, there's other people here, and they will come into play very soon, so you need to know about them. So this is how we're going to do it. The bearded lady has a baby with the human skeleton. They give birth to their daughter. Violet and Daisy, the conjoined twins, are married to Roscoe, who is the stuttering circus clown, who I just wanted, not for the fact that he stuttered, he's just not a nice person. He was horrible.
You'll do what I want, you know. And then what's the bit he shouts at her? You always say that, you're always taking her side, her alibi, and he's proper stuttering and stuff.
And and at this point, you're like, Johnny, just spit it out, because like you're getting on my nerves. The way that you're speaking to them women, that is just not okay. I got myself very angry at him.
But that's why I like the other sister that wasn't married to him, because she was like, no, I'm going out. See you later.
And there's nothing she can do about it.
See ya. And yeah.
Yeah, he was a horrible, horrible person. But Hans does end up marrying Cleopatra. And at the ceremony, all of the circus folk are there, and it is mainly all of, I don't want to say this word, it's mainly all the freaks that are there. And she is sitting amongst them, getting herself absolutely enamored. She actually kisses Hercules in front of Hans after they've been married.
And that's when it dawns on Hans that everything Frida was telling him was true.
Just starts sinking in.
Yeah, and this is where it pans around, when you can see she's constantly berating Hans in front of everybody prior to, like, she'd just kissed Hercules or whatever, and she's berating him and making him feel awful. And it pans around to Frida, and Frida, I'm not joking, that face, the tears welling up. She wasn't actually physically crying, but her eyes were just full of water, and like her bottom lip was quivering, and she just got up and she walked away. And I thought, do you know what? That must take a hell of a lot to not go, you know, say everything you wanted to say.
Or launch yourself across the table and just go for it, because the thing is, though, anger's not, I don't think anger is where her emotions go to.
No.
It's more heartbreak.
Yeah.
And it's not heartbreak like as in she's lost the love of her life heartbreak. It's the fact that her best friend is going through this horrible experience and there's nothing she can do to stop it. And her performance there is, it's breathtaking. There's a reason they called her Baby Jane Harlow, because she looks exactly like her. Their hair and everything, the face.
Yeah, she's a little stunner. But you
She's
see
absolutely
Cleopatra pouring the poison into the champagne bottle, and she starts serving up the champagne to Hans. So you get the idea that, okay, this is where this is starting. They're going to make him ill. They're going to make him, you know, not feel good and all that. But
before that,
yes,
is the acceptance from the rest of the crew.
It's the initiation. This is the, if we're telling you you're part of our group, we mean that, and it means more to us, because we, you know, to be accepted into this fold is a big deal, to say that we trust you. You know, you want to live the life that we live. You want to be part of it. You've proved that by marrying Hans. And then you get the whole yeah, you get I think Cuckoo, sorry, is on the table dancing, and Cuckoo is still in the limelight somewhat, and then they say, I'll give someone else a chance. So Antonio gets up, and then they fill the loving cup and they pass the cup around, and everybody drinks some of that alcohol, and then they all start doing the chant, google gobble, one of us, you know, and
we accept her, one of us,
yes,
google gobble.
It's for me, for them guys to take an able-bodied person into, I hate saying able-bodied because I'm still not 100% sure if that's the right terminology, but anyway,
yeah,
for them to take one into their fold that's an outsider is a big deal.
Yeah,
and they've reached out and they've given the olive branch, but you just see her face.
Oh, she doesn't.
Yeah, change into this disgust within a matter of seconds. The more they're saying they accept her and she's one of them.
We accept you, one of us. And it just, as many times as it gets said, it's like you can see it change in her body. You can see it like her whole body is just affected by it, to the point where she does end up lashing out. And it gets quite,
she starts screaming at them, and
yeah, it turns into fear for everyone around her. It's awful. It's horrible the way that she goes on, because you like, Jesus wept. You have no idea what it means to them.
No.
For this moment right now.
Even Madame Tetralani says something along those lines of, you know, I don't like what's happening here, or she says something when she sees how upset Frida's getting. And then there's this scene. Now, for me, out of all of the film, this is the worst scene. This last bit of this scene, it is there's something about it that's demoralizing, dehumanizing. It is absolutely the lowest of the low, where Hercules picks up Hans and puts him on Cleopatra's shoulder, and they're running around with him, and you can see the shame on his face. He's just got his hands over his eyes, and he's like,
they just try and demoralize him and humiliate him.
It's that, to me, is the worst scene in the whole film.
It's horrible. It really is horrible. But they will get it there. They will get it there, upcomings.
And this is where the whole troupe have witnessed firsthand how sick these two really are.
And they've started to figure out that Hans has been poisoned.
Because he passes out in his trailer, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's right. So this is where the plan starts coming together on how they're going to get them back. Unfortunately, I missed what happened to Hercules.
Well, this is the thing. Okay, now you get the section where they're all in the trailer at the end, and they're going off to their next destination, and Hans is very aware that he's being poisoned at this point, so he's spitting into a tissue like every time he tries to give him medicine. And so he's aware that this is happening. So he confronts her, and he keeps saying to her, "Give me the black bottle, give me the black bottle." And then in the wagon at the time, you've got Johnny. Johnny pulls out a gun and starts cleaning it. You've got Antonio, or one of the dwarves, that has a flick knife bigger than him, which I thought was hilarious because it was just the way he flicked it out and he just stared at her. There was something about it that was really menacing at the same time, and it just didn't. I don't know what it was. It looked really strange. And then he just keeps saying to her, "Give me the bottle, give me the bottle." She finally backs down and gives him the bottle, and he says, "I know you've been trying to poison me." And next thing you know, the trailer capsizes because it's raining and the horses pull them over and everything.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's absolutely hooning it down with rain. Now, at this point, Hercules having a fight with Froso because he's trying to get in to hurt Venus.
Yeah, he's trying to kill Venus. So he comes in and attacks him, and that's where it ends. He's just injured. I'm just reading the synopsis now, and it's just an injured Hercules.
No, what happens from that bit is Hercules comes out of the
Had to run to the toilet at this point.
Hercules comes out of the trailer, and what you see for leading up to this is you can see that they're all plotting something, but you don't know what, because everybody's hiding under the wagons and just constantly watching Cleopatra and watching Hercules, and they know they're being watched, and they know there's something happening, but they take their opportunity now. So what I think it's Antonio, or one of the guys that's the dwarf, throws the flick knife and stabs Hercules in the side, literally gets him under the ribs in the side. So Hercules falls to the floor, and all of the performers start, like, you even see, like, I think it's Elvira, she has a knife in her hands, and she's like army crawling under the trailer, and they're all going towards Hercules with various weapons, and you know that he's done. He's done. But in the cut that you see for the 64 minutes, that's where it stops. In the original, you actually, I don't know how much of it you see, but they actually castrate Hercules in the original cut.
Yeah.
And
Max a bitch.
Yeah. So they castrate him. Now, what they do to Cleo, however, is, I want to say, chef's kiss. It is
genius
artwork. It is.
This is triumphant.
It's not even possible, really. It's going to be tar and feathers and stuff, isn't it? Let's be honest. You know, not to say that I just couldn't. Every time I see this bit, I look at it and I'm like, how do you turn into?
Well, what you do is this is the bit that disappointed me because of how grand and dramatic the beginning is. The reveal is very short and sweet.
It's quick. You blink and you miss it.
You mix it. But yeah, they turn Cleopatra into the human duck. They give her a beak. They actually remove one of her eyes.
Yeah.
They remove her legs, her arms.
Yeah, I think they pull her arms. She's either got like arms pulled behind her, or they're in like a weird position.
Yeah.
But she has a breast and she's feathered, and I have to say, it was shocking for the time because people could.
I've got it here.
Yeah.
I've got it here. Her tongue was removed.
Right.
One of her eyes were gouged out. Flesh from her hands had been melted into form to look like duck feet. Her legs had been cut off, and what is left of her torso has been permanently tarred and feathered.
There we go.
That's what they did. That is payback for hurting and humiliating one of their own. Now,
there's two ways you can look at this film as a whole. It is what I would call a revenge movie. But in 1932, if you look at it from the eyes of two different people, you could look at it from the eyes of someone like Tod, who's worked in the world And he understands the law. He understands the fact that you hurt one, you hurt all. He understands the fact that these are people, these are humans. Or you can look at it from the fact, you know, of the viewpoint of every other person who's never touched a sideshow in their entire life. You know, this monstrosity, these are bad people, look what they did to that woman, you know. Whereas me, when I see this film, this is a woman that's come into their world that doesn't respect them, doesn't hold them in any kind of equality situation, doesn't treat them like anyone else. She treats them like she's above them. Same with Hercules. And they get their comeuppance for treating one of them as horrifically as they did. So personally, I see it as the good triumphed. It's not like
oh yeah, if this is good versus evil, the good win. They won.
100%. But a lot of people, the reason why it not flopped, but the reason why it had such visceral reactions, apart from the look of the people, was due to the fact that they won.
They won. And in the society of where they are placed in society, is what I meant to say, they shouldn't have.
Yeah, exactly.
And they did.
Underdogs. It's an underdog movie.
It is. In the original cut, you do get to see more of. So it does say in my notes here, while some versions end on Cleopatra as the human duck, another ending shows Hans now living in his mansion. This is what I saw. So this is the edit where you see her for a second. So I'm guessing in the other one it's a longer played out. Ooh, look at her. But yeah, you get to see Hans in his mansion. Because he did have a very large inheritance, still humiliated, and he's visited by Venus Fozo, sorry, and Frida, and he's like, I didn't want her to be mutilated. I just wanted her to be punished in a way with, or maybe he didn't want that basically, and he blamed himself for what had happened to her. And Frida just gives him a big, massive cuddle.
And like Venus is like, let's get the hell out of it. And so suppose they're like, let's leave him to it. And she's just giving him a cuddle whilst he's, you know, really upset. And that's how the movie ends. But I genuinely love this film for so many reasons. I
can understand why.
For so many reasons. For me, it is the ability to take a subject matter and turn it on its head and be as forward thinking as he was, even though this movie ruined Tod Browning's
it did. He never did it. He never did very much after this. People took pity on him after this movie.
Yeah.
He got pity work.
Yeah.
But nothing to the caliber of what he was pulling out for Universal before it.
This is the thing. He was most famous for Dracula, and Dracula is one of the most iconic movies of the Universal Monsters catalogue. Obviously, you have Dracula, you have Frank's Monster, you have Creature, but in 1931 he was the forefront runner. He directed Dracula. So going from Universal to MGM the year after to direct this movie, they threw a lot of money at him at the time. The budget for this movie was $310,000 back in 1932, which equates to, by today's money, 7.1 million to make this movie. 7.1 million. Now, when it went to the box office, it didn't do well. It did okay. It made money, not a lot, but it made money.
It didn't help that it got fucking barred everywhere.
No, because they put it on a short run and then take it off. Put it on a short run and then take it off. So, you know, there wasn't a longevity. Like with a lot of the movies in America, they have long runs. This didn't.
We didn't see it until about the 60s or something, did we?
Correct. Yeah. The box office made in America 340,000, which is the equivalent to 7.4 million. So it made 0.3 million.
Okay.
But that's not a success for MGM.
It's not
the money out. They want the money back. But it was banned the instant it came out in the UK. It was banned from 1932 to 1965. I want to say it was.
I want to say 65 from what I remember reading.
And then it was underground videos for a little while. You couldn't get hold of it, but you know, if you got to see it in the cinema, because obviously in the 60s that was the only place you could really see it, they would never have shown that on TV. And it's usually one of your little grimy grindhousey cinema, you know, places. that would
It's-
show it. But
It's
it
so
got
amazing.
bought by a exploitation. The rights to it actually got bought by an exploitation sideshow guy
Who?
who toured the movie in America and literally would take it round all these places and play the movie.
Mhm.
But he was well known for being a bit of a shizer, a bit of a, shyster.
Who the fuck isn't?
But yeah, he was more of an exploitation cinema. So he'd go to seedy places like, the dodgy penny pawn shops,
Yeah.
cinemas, and he'd play it in places like that. So it did have a cult following coming up, even though you couldn't watch it anywhere. It wasn't until they reckon the 80s was when it started becoming like midnight. They do like midnight specials.
Yeah.
And they would run it at midnight once a week, and then it started to get a cult following and more people would come and watch it. And then obviously with the invention of VHS, it started going on to VHS, and more people got made aware of it, and more people wanted to see it on the big screen, and more people wanted to find it.
I fucking struggled to find it.
Yeah, more people wanted to find the hidden, like all the cut scenes, but there is no, that from what I could find out, there is very little of the cut scenes available because they've just been either destroyed after they did the cutting at MGM, because they just burnt it and got rid of it straight away, or someone might have a copy of it somewhere in their dungeon and not have a clue that they own it, kind of thing. So
I got it from an archive it was like kind of like a history archive, and that's where I found my copy, and that's why I didn't dare, because I was like, if I break this link, I'm not going to get this back, so I'm just going to keep playing. That's why I missed a section of it while I ran to the top. I was like, I'm bursting, I need to go. But this is just, it's regarded as one of the greatest films. Not just in, because it is classed as a horror film. It is in that category, in that of, subgenre of horror. But just movies, Binks, I know I missed you too. But of just movies in general, that it's just hailed as a masterpiece. And I get it. I do get it. Because there's a lot of, if you just take Frida as the main star, as the main character, her journey through this was unbelievable. This is like when I watch American Horror Story Hotel, I'm only watching for one person. Liz Taylor. That Liz Taylor's arc from start to finish is some of the greatest writing Ryan Murphy has ever fucking done for a character. And I felt like that was the same for Frida. I felt like a lot was put into her, and it pays off because it's Frida who you go through the whole movie with from start to finish. And I really, really appreciate that I got to watch it, that I got over my uncomfortableness of sideshows. I don't know if it comes down to the fakery stuff that I have seen in the past.
Yeah.
That has bothered me. And how
there is a lot of historians of the sideshow world. And I know quite a few of them because I'm lucky enough. I travelled in those circles for a little while. And I still have one toe.
She's lived a life, this one, man.
Well, there was a TV show before AHS called Freak Show. That was the name of the TV show. And that
kept showing up on my search thingies.
Yeah, it was Tod. I can't think of his surname, but the guy who runs it was called Tod. And Tod had a thing for collections. He used to work for a huge music company. I don't know if it was Sony or one of them. And he used to do a lot of music management. But he always had the hobby of collecting like Siamese things. So he'd have like a Siamese skeleton of babies or a Siamese two-headed goat or things like that. So he started collecting, and his collection got bigger and bigger. And this TV show focused on the sideshow that he opened on Venice Beach, and he showed him recruiting, the tall guy, the sword swallower, the mystic guy, the weirdo, the geek, and it goes through This is one incredibly fake TV program. However, the only reason I know it's fake is because I became friends with the sword swallow, Murugan the Mystic. Now, Murugan was an ex-porn star that became really, really good at swallowing swords. So he took his talent and reapplied it. Murugan Scott Nelson was his name, was crazy. He was one of the craziest sword swallowers next to Hannibal Helmoto from the Circus of Horrors that I've ever seen. Sadly, Scott passed away. I think it was the beginning of this year. He had many complications. He swallowed a sword and it perforated out the side of his body. Went through his esophagus and then out the side of his body, and his body didn't really recover very well after that. But he'd been swallowing swords for 40 years at this point. It wasn't so it was just a freak accident. Same thing happened with Hannibal, but Hannibal's still alive. He was doing the neon light swallow trick, where he has the lights, the neon light strips, swallowing that like a sword. They turn all the lights off and his whole insides glow because the neon is. It's fascinating. But he did one where, and I think the glass broke inside him and it perforated his esophagus, and there was a whole thing where he had to seek a lot of help for that. But he's all right now. But yeah, he hated that TV program. He had to be contractually on it for however many seasons that he had signed up for, and he couldn't get out of it for love nor money. And he made a massive thing about it in the sideshow group we were in, about how it was just awful. We don't have a big sideshow community so much in the UK, but we did have, when I was part of it, not part of it, but I was privy to it. There is a lot of people that love to just be on stage, and they have these, they can do these things with their bodies that we can't. Like, they have a contortionist in Circus of Horrors. You have Anastasia, who hangs by her hair on her head and literally is pulled up to heights. She has firework belts, and her hair is what takes her entire weight, and she does these. She's married to Hannibal the sword swallower. Then you had Dan. Dan was a dwarf. Dan used to be very famous for getting a Henry Hoover stuck on his dick, so it became his entire shtick at the thing. Then you had your knife throwers. I also know Charlie Atlas and Rachel, who used to be sword swallow. No, they used to be knife throwers.
I was going to say I recognise the name Charlie Atlas.
Charlie is lovely. He used to be big in the up your way.
Right, got you. And
then he moved back up to Scotland, which was where he's from. But he was big on knife throwing. And then you had some knife throwing, and it was just like I say, there was a lot of people that joined that. And then you had your independents, people like Bloody Bones, who I still know, and he makes a lot of gaffs and geeks now, but he does eat the glass and he does all those tricks. He's the Pudsey Peso as well. He used to stick the
Pudsey Peso,
the nail in the nose and bang it in, all that sort of stuff.
Yep, that makes me toes curl.
And then you get the guys that walk on glass, walk on coals and stuff like that. And
I think I would do that,
Then you got people like the great Alocia, who I told you about last week, who was the one who wore my t-shirt on David Blaine's TV show, because he was teaching David Blaine how to regurgitate, right?
As you do.
So regurgitation was only done by one person, that they can recall at the time, and that was what he was famous for. He'd drink loads of water and be able to regurgitate it into these like pots, and it wasn't sick, it was just water. He trained his stomach to not digest it entirely. It stopped before it hits that.
I understand that feeling. I get that when I drink tea.
That sphincter that hits just before the stomach to let it into the stomach. They know how to train that to keep it shut, so they keep the water in the right place. So he was teaching David Blaine how to do it, and David Blaine did it with goldfish, and he swallowed his goldfish and then he regurgitated his goldfish. So Brett Loudermilk and El Locio was teaching him like the key ways of being able to do it. But then you have people who are like sideshow historians, like someone who I know who is James Freeman. James Freeman is an Atlanta based antiques guy, but he specializes in Houdini and sideshow banners. And he's got a lot of like sideshow postcards. You can buy them from his shop. They're called Freeman and Fugate Antiques. And James, I've bought a lot off of him, but I am more interested in the guy's knowledge. He is
I can imagine.
He talks about all the guys who were really famous for the artwork on the banners and things like that. And he knows his stuff about sideshow. And it's so nice to hear someone as passionate as I feel about it, that's my age still, that can recall things and be able to tell stories and know things just off the drop of a hat, because he's so passionate about the subject. But yeah, it's I this will always have a place in my heart, sideshow, for one way or another. I even went down to E4 used to do Wonderland on the embankment in the south, on the South Bank. And they went through a phase of having a lot of sideshow acts there down on the embankment, and a lot of my friends were doing acts there. So it was really nice to see it put at the forefront. I mean, we're talking maybe 10, 12 years ago now that happened, but I feel like I don't want it to become a lost art. And unfortunately, the Circus of Horrors have had to stop touring at the moment because they lost Doc Hayes middle of last year, who was the guy that ran it, who was their compere. He was the main guy, Doc Hayes, and they lost him last year. They tried to carry on without him.
That's a testament to them then. If they can't continue on without him, that's such a testament.
And we don't know why. I don't know if it's money issues. I don't know whether they just they can't do it without him. Do you know what I mean? John Hayes was the pillar of the Circus of Horrors. And his wife, Stephanie, was one of the girls who did the aerial acts. And I just think none of them really had time to process. So I'm hoping they're just taking some time out to do that. And then when they're ready, they'll come back.
It's one thing I've always wanted to go to, but always been quite nervous about seeing. I am a really sensitive person, incredibly sensitive. I feel everything, and I can't unsee things. There's one that I've had to stop watching Interview with the Vampire.
I can't even get into that one.
And I know it's not real, but this is how my sensitive brain is. I can't find me octopus either. I'm getting me anxieties like rising a little bit. Louis eats a bat.
Oh, lovely.
And I know it's not real, Dan, but looking at that bat's face and listening to them screams, I'm not going to not unhear that for a really long time. And I can't watch it knowing that is, and I know Louis did that. Like I knew he ate rats and stuff, but like I don't want to see it. Because my little I'm very sensitive, and I get very nervous when someone is going to either do something that will be like, oh, that's going to stay with me for a while. So I've always been quite nervous about doing it, but also very intrigued about going to see them at the same time, because I've heard the show is fantastic. I'll get over my own bullshit at some point, but yeah, I can't find my octopus.
I was going to say, because we also, when we went to Vegas a couple of years back, we went to see this very, very short-lived Cirque du Soleil. It's called Run, and it was in I always forget the name of it, the pyramid one in Vegas.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and it was a very short run. I think it only ran for a couple of months at most, but they had a whole section in the middle of it where Ariel Manx, who is one of the sideshow performers, was doing some weird stuff with drills. Now that would have killed you. That would have killed you. For me, not so much. I just sat there and I laughed because I've been privy to it. You know, a lot of the sideshow people tend to try and take it up a notch from the old banging the nail in the nose. They take it
even that would be too much for us. I mean, especially with my history with my nose, like, no.
Human pincushion is what they normally used to call those guys.
Human pincushion, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like there is I'm a stickler for, whilst I know I don't look it, I love tradition. I am someone who has a lot of time for tradition. Whether I agree with it or not is neither here nor there, but I respect tradition. And I respect the fact that people put time and effort into making something.
It's an art. An art is subjective.
Correct.
And it comes in every form, every shape, every form. You could class what we do as an art form. And it's just simply talking. But yeah, I love that I went all artsy there for a second.
That's my sister rubbing off on us. Are we ready to put freaks to bed now?
I could talk about it for days, but I think now's the time to we'll just end it there.
I don't mind revisiting some form like later on. I've thoroughly enjoyed.
It is a film I have put off for many years, but I see everywhere. You watch any horror top 10 most influential horror movies of all time, and Freaks is going to be right up there. If you are on Facebook and you either follow Nerdy Up North, because I don't know if he posts them in Bleeding Marvelous, but he definitely posts them in Nerdy Up North and on his own page, The Horror Asylum, Mike Kell's review of Freaks. He absolutely adores this film, stands by every inch of it. So please go and check out Mike Kell's. I like saying Mike Kell, even though it's just Mike. Like, I love saying Mike Kell's name. Go and check out Mike's review. But next week, I've actually been hinting the whole episode of what next week's episode's going to be.
So good. Say it 3 times.
Say it twice. Say it 3 times. Apparently, say it 3 times at Cineworld, and you'll get your drink for free if you buy the thingy cup. Apparently, I'm there tomorrow. I'm gonna give it a try. Yeah, next week we are doing Beetlejuice and Beetlejuice.
Now, at this point, we've given you a whack of time to be able to see it, but
we appreciate this. Yeah,
because we're not complete monsters.
No,
we'll talk
the
about
podcast might be called Monsters.
Yeah.
But we're not.
We'll talk about the first one, and then we will draw a line down the middle, and we will say, right, spoiler warning from here, and then we will talk about the second one. So you have plenty of time to tune out if you haven't seen it by then.
I will even put a timer on, and we will say at this point, stop watching.
Yeah.
I will even put it on into the audio descriptions and all sorts. We do not want to ruin this movie for anybody. This is a long time coming. This is 30 odd years in the making.
I even have a tattoo of this movie.
She hasn't watched a trailer.
I haven't.
Not one.
And I get to see it tomorrow, because tomorrow when we film this is back in time. This is Thursday. It comes out Friday the 6th. You'll see this Monday the 9th. So going back in time, I've managed to escape it like I did Ghostbusters.
You can't wait. Yeah, I'm seeing it tomorrow also, because I cannot be. I have really jumped on this Beetlejuice hype train to a place I never thought I would go to. I've got pajamas. I've just found, because my washing is right next to us, my socks, my Beetlejuice socks, my cup, my bag. I've really gone on and I own about 3 different Beetlejuice t-shirts already before I've even bought. I didn't even buy any of the new ones because I was like, I've already got them. Like, I don't need them. I didn't realize until leading up to this how much I was looking forward to this movie and how much I fucking love the first one.
I'm hoping, my predictions for this film is I'm going to come away and be somewhat grumpy about it for about a day, and then I'll think about it and I might actually like it, because I feel like I'm one of these people who
do you hate first then love later?
Sometimes, yeah.
Right.
But I'm one of these people that usually when they do these reboot, remake, sequels, whatever we're going to call this, because I don't know where it's falling. I know it's technically a sequel, but I'm sure there'll be something in it that make it different. They don't always use the same characters. They don't always use the same laws, but because everybody from the original is still on board, Tim's on board, Michael's on board, Winona's on board, Catherine's on board. So the only person who's not there is the person they killed off because he's a peddler. So
And he
goodbye.
can get in the
everyone.
fucking bin.
Exactly. So off you trot, Sonny.
And to kill him is the best way to get rid of that character. Fucking dead.
My only issue, now this is going to be a controversial one for some people because I know they absolutely love her, but I have a love-hate relationship with General Ortega. I can only take so much before I get annoyed. Wednesday, perfect. She played the part fantastically. That I could deal with, but Scream 4, 5 was what did it for me. 5.
6, she didn't do me head in so much. I get what you mean. The most pretentious conversation in horror films I've ever seen in a long time was hers when she is on Scream 5 at the beginning, where it's like, "What's your favorite scary movie?" "Well, I like the Babadook because it's like, no, you don't. No, you don't.
No one
you
likes that
fucking
film.
lie.
Yeah.
If you like the Babadook, I like the Babadook for one reason and one reason alone, is because I actually understood what the fuck was going on. But that kid,
it's a film
no.
about grief, and it's a film
Exactly.
about a woman's and a
It's
child.
mental health, it's grief.
The Babadook is the product of the grief. Now, I don't think that's a film we'll be watching because I don't think I could sit through that kid again.
I can't.
So the chances are we will never review
ever do it. Not a chance. But next week is going to be Beetlejuice and Beetlejuice. Can't wait. Very excited for that. And we are on YouTube every Monday at 8 o'clock. The audio for this episode and all other episodes is available on a Tuesday. We're quite lucky, you know, when it comes to the audio, because we can go literally, you only have to wait one day. The Trek guys have to wait a few days before theirs goes to audio, because I do them all at the same time.
Yeah.
So we're quite lucky. It's like Monday, Tuesday.
Happy days.
You can find the links for Bleeding Marvelous, Monsters Up North, and Nerdy Up North. Where are they, Dan? Thank you, Loki. They're right down there with her very... Your nails match your glasses. Dan is looking incredibly sophisticated tonight.
Yeah, I know. I'm wearing white. I know.
I know. I was like, oh.
Don't have a heart attack.
She's been at work today.
I have been at work. But yes, this is on the odd occasion one does make an effort, but it's been too hot to wear like a vest top, and this is very...
I have been freezing.
I'm boiling. I am menopausal, remember.
I have the pumpkin cardi back. Get this. I made a fire today. I put wood and paper and a match to it and made a fire. I just want that to sink right in.
Do you live in the wilderness?
No, my mother has a fire burner thing. What do you call them?
Just checking. Just checking you're not Ray Mears in disguise or something.
I mean, at least I know I can be now. But yeah, I made a fire. And it's still going right now.
And it burns.
I was so proud of myself. I was like, oh, if you can do this, you can do anything. You own the day, pet. Own the day. Links have done that. Next week's episode done that. Take. Audio take. YouTube take. Oh, yeah. If you're not already, please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like our videos, leave a message, leave a comment, leave something. If you are listening to us on audio, let us know. Let us know. And leave a like, leave a review, leave a heart, leave a whatever. Just helps the algorithm, helps find... I can't even talk. Helps other people find us. Is there anything else, Dan? Well, if there's nothing else left to say goodbye, Dan.
One of us. Bye.
Oh, I was going to finish it off. Stay spooky, everyone. Bye.